Hey everybody, Kim from Dreammakers Farms. Today we are making apple butter. If you have not already, you need to watch the part 1 video, which is making applesauce. That will show you how to get to the point that we are at right now, which is the applesauce that I have in the pan that we are going to actually turn into apple butter. So if you haven't watched that yet, take a break, go back, watch that, and then come back here and pick up with this video, which is the part 2, which is the actual making of the apple butter itself. So what we have in the pan is we have our applesauce that we just canned some applesauce. So now we have the applesauce that I took out of the pan. So I have that in the stock pot here. I'll flip my camera down so you can see it. All right, so this is the applesauce that I had separated out of the stock pot. There's 6 cups of applesauce here. And this has just been cooked down with the immersion, or, what's the word that I want? Oh my goodness. Thinned down with the immersion blender. There's still a few chunks in here, so we're gonna take care of those in a minute. But we're just gonna put this on a low simmer. And it's still hot because we had just made the applesauce with it. So what we want to do is we are just going to cook this down. So we are going to add 1 teaspoon of cloves to this. This is just ground cloves. And we add 1 teaspoon of cloves. Now this already has sugar, water, and cinnamon in it from when we cooked our applesauce. Okay. Now we put this in a big stock pot because it bubbles, and when it bubbles everywhere. I learned a lesson last time I made this a couple weeks ago, that it will bubble and it will make a giant mess. So you really want a tall stock pot for this just to avoid a mess, because it bubbles like nothing else you've ever seen before. All right, so you can see there's a few little chunks of apples in there still from the applesauce. So we'll take the immersion blender in a minute and we'll just knock those out. But this is gonna have to cook down probably for about half an hour. So you wanna stir this really frequently because number 1, you don't want it to scald. And number 2, you want this to really thicken up. So when it's done, it will mound up on a spoon. So you can see it's saucy right now. It still looks like a thin applesauce. And when it mounds up, when it's done, it will heap. It won't be really thin like it is now. Almost like a pudding consistency. So you will smell this and it will smell absolutely delightful between the cloves and the cinnamon and obviously the apples as well. So I'm going to knock out these little chunks with the immersion blender. I get it untangled from my drawer. I gotta tell you, this is one of the best investments I've ever made, is this immersion blender. I'm so excited to have this. probably not something I'll use a lot, I don't think. You can see how this is splattering everywhere. It's even coming up out of the pot. But that immersion blender is fantastic. For $25, I probably could have got a much more expensive one. But I only use it maybe a couple times a year. I've never really needed one before. But when I made apple butter last week or the week before that, I thought, oh, one of those would be so nice to have. Because I always have to transfer everything into my blender to puree it. And I hate moving hot things from a pot into a blender and then back into a pot again. So I bought myself a little treat. You can see how thin that is now. So we're just going to let this cook down. And again, this is probably going to take a while. And you want this on the lowest heat that your stove will do. Because you can see, even with my hand, it's splashing out of the pot way up here. So we'll check back in a little bit. But plan on keeping an eye on this, coming back, stir every, I would say 2-3 minutes. And make sure it doesn't scald at the bottom. And it will heap and not be this saucy consistency when it is ready. So we'll check back in a few minutes. So it's been about 25-30 minutes or so. I just took the apple butter off the stove. So I simmered it really low, and you can see if I take a scoop now that it really mounds up and it is really thick. I'll give you a shot into the pot and then we are going to can it up. So it is really thick now. It really mounds up on the spoon. It's really thick. Okay, so we are just going to put it in our jars now. Like I said, it took about 25 minutes, maybe 30. You can see what a mess my pot is because it just splatters everywhere. So you want to be really careful of that. And that's why you really want to use a big pot, because my stove is an absolute mess now from where it just boiled everywhere. So I have little 1/2 pint jars that I really like for these. I'm not gonna lie, my first batch was a mess. I didn't get it thick enough. I never made it before. This is my second time making it. My first time didn't come out so well. It was not thick enough. And it was more like just a really thick applesauce. And I wasn't really sure, you know, how long to cook it for. So everything is always trial and error. You try something new, you don't know what you're gonna get. And I said to my husband, I said, Jamie, this is an absolute waste. I said, I wasted, you know, all this time peeling apples. I wasted all this time cooking this down. And I don't know what to do now. I said, I have all this stuff, and what are we gonna do with it? And he said, I'm gonna put it on my pancakes. I'm gonna put it on my French toast. And he did. And he said, it's wonderful. He was thrilled with it. So I was telling my girlfriend about making it and how it was a disaster. And she said, no, I wanna try it anyway. I've never had apple butter before. So I took her a jar. And I told her, I said, it's not what it's supposed to be. It's not apple butter. And she said, no, that's fine. So she took a jar and she put it on ice cream. And she said, Kim, it's the best thing I've ever tasted. She said, it reminds me of my mom's apple pie. She said, it's like reverse pie a la mode. She said, I put it on maple walnut ice cream. And it reminded me of Reverse pie a la mode. Normally you put ice cream on pie, and instead she put pie on ice cream. This is definitely a lot thicker than that trial batch that I did. And I think this is much more the way apple butter is supposed to be. And I always say this, I am not a professional. I am certainly learning as I go, but I think that's the way it's supposed to be, right? You learn, and then you can show others what you learn. So I have another little jar. I'll have to find it. Not sure where it is. But again, you want to just wipe off your rims really well. Put your ring on, or your lid, and then your ring. And then fingertip tight. And then we're going to flip these just like we did our applesauce. These are really hot. And should, in theory, seal the same way. Do I know that they will? I don't. You can definitely water bath can these. I have water bath canned applesauce before. In theory, are you supposed to? No, because of the acid. You would want to water bath can for 3 hours, because if there's not acid, you need to water bath can for a long time, which is 3 hours. I hate it when rings don't go on straight. It's me being a doofus and not lining everything up. These are really hot. So that is apple butter. I am excited to try this batch. I can definitely already tell you that it is much thicker and much better tasting than the first batch that I made. Definitely. So I hope you enjoyed the video, the tutorial. Hopefully it comes out well for you as well. Be sure to hit like and subscribe below to follow for more adventures here around Dreammakers Farm. And I hope to see you soon. Take care.